Your nervous system is not trying to hurt you. It's trying to keep you alive. But sometimes, the strategies it learned to survive your past are now controlling your present. And you don't even realize it's happening. When you experience trauma, your brain doesn't file it away as a memory and move on. Instead, it encodes the threat. It learns patterns. It teaches your body how to react when similar danger appears. And because your nervous system is designed for survival, not comfort, it errs on the side of caution. It stays vigilant. It stays ready. This hypervigilance manifests in 4 primary ways. 4 trauma responses that shape how you interact with stress, conflict, relationships, and even yourself. These responses are called fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. And most people only know about the first 2. Understanding which response dominates your nervous system is crucial because these patterns are automatic. They happen before your conscious mind can intervene. You don't choose them. Your body chooses them based on what it learned would keep you safe. Let's start with fight. This is the response where your nervous system interprets threat as something to confront. When activated, you become aggressive, argumentative, controlling, or intensely reactive. Your body floods with adrenaline. Your mind focuses on winning, defending, or proving yourself right. People with a dominant fight response often grew up in environments where they had to stand up for themselves, where passivity meant getting hurt, or where aggression was modeled as the way to handle conflict. So their nervous system learned, when threatened, attack. When challenged, fight back. When afraid, get angry first. In adult life, this shows up as someone who is quick to anger, who argues intensely, who struggles with authority, who dominates conversations, or who turns every disagreement into a battle. They may not realize they're in survival mode. They think they're just being assertive or protecting themselves. But underneath, their nervous system is still fighting the battles of their past. The second response is flight. This is when your nervous system interprets threat as something to escape. When activated, you run. You avoid. You distract. You create distance. Your body floods with adrenaline. But instead of confronting, you flee. People with a dominant flight response often grew up in environments where standing up meant punishment, where speaking up meant being silenced, or where the safest option was to disappear. So their nervous system learned, when threatened, leave. When uncomfortable, escape. When afraid, run. In adult life, this shows up as someone who avoids conflict, who leaves relationships when things get difficult, who changes jobs frequently, who struggles to stay present in uncomfortable conversations, or who is always busy, always moving, never still. They may feel restless or anxious when they try to slow down. They may feel like they're running from something but can't name what it is. The third response is freeze. This is when your nervous system interprets threat as something to hide from by becoming invisible. When activated, you shut down. You go numb. You dissociate. Your body becomes rigid or limp. Your mind goes blank. People with a dominant freeze response often grew up in environments where they couldn't fight and couldn't run, so the only option was to disappear internally. Maybe there was abuse. Maybe there was overwhelming chaos. Maybe there was a caregiver who was unpredictable and terrifying. So their nervous system learned, when threatened, don't move. When afraid, go numb. When cornered, disappear. In adult life, this shows up as someone who goes silent in conflict, who dissociates during stress, who feels emotionally numb even in important moments, who struggles to make decisions, or who feels paralyzed by anxiety. They may feel like they're watching their life from outside their body. They may have gaps in memory or feel like they're not fully present in their own existence. The fourth response is fawn. This is the one most people don't talk about, but it's incredibly common. This is when your nervous system interprets threat as something to appease. When activated, you become a people pleaser. You sacrifice your own needs. You become hyper-attuned to others' emotions. You apologize for things that aren't your fault. You make yourself small. People with a dominant fawn response often grew up in environments where their safety depended on keeping the peace, on reading the room, on managing other people's emotions. Maybe a parent was volatile and you learned to predict their moods. Maybe you were the emotional support for a struggling caregiver. Maybe you learned that your needs didn't matter as much as keeping others comfortable. So their nervous system learned, when threatened, appease. When afraid, comply. When in danger, make yourself useful. In adult life, this shows up as someone who can't say no, who feels responsible for other people's feelings, who stays in unhealthy relationships because leaving feels selfish, who overextends themselves, or who feels resentful but doesn't know why. They may struggle with boundaries. They may feel like they're constantly performing for approval. They may not even know what they actually want because they've spent so long focused on what others need. Here's what's important to understand. Most people don't have just one response. You likely have a primary response and secondary responses. Under mild stress, you might use one strategy. Under extreme stress, you might shift to another. And sometimes, you cycle through all four depending on the situation. Also, these responses are not character flaws. They are not proof that you're broken or damaged. They are proof that your nervous system is intelligent. It learned what would keep you alive in an unsafe environment. The problem is not that you have these responses. The problem is that your nervous system is still using them even though the original threat is gone. You are no longer a child in an unsafe home. You are no longer in the situation that taught you to fight, flee, freeze, or fawn. But your body doesn't know that yet. Your nervous system is still scanning for danger. It's still ready to activate survival mode at a moment's notice. Recognizing which response dominates you is the first step toward change. If you're a fighter, you might notice that you escalate quickly, that you're always ready for conflict, that you struggle to back down even when you want to. If you're a flyer, you might notice that you leave situations before they're resolved, that you feel restless when you try to stay, that you're always planning your escape route. If you're a freezer, you might notice that you go silent, that you feel disconnected from your body, that you can't access your emotions even when you want to. If you're a fawner, you might notice that you say yes to everything, that you feel resentful but don't express it, that you've lost touch with your own needs. Once you recognize your pattern, the next step is to bring awareness to the moments when it activates. Notice the physical sensations. Notice the thoughts that arise. Notice the urge to react in your familiar way. Don't judge yourself. Just observe. Because the moment you become aware of the pattern, you create a tiny space between the trigger and your response. And in that space is choice. You can't change what you don't see. But once you see it, you can begin to work with your nervous system instead of against it. You can learn to recognize the difference between actual danger and perceived danger. You can practice staying present even when your body wants to fight, flee, freeze, or fawn. You can slowly teach your nervous system that safety is possible. This doesn't happen overnight. Your nervous system has been practicing these responses for years, maybe decades. It will take time and repetition to build new pathways. But every time you pause instead of react, every time you stay present instead of dissociate, every time you speak up instead of comply, every time you stay instead of run, you are rewiring your system. You are teaching it that there are other options. Your trauma responses are not your fault, but healing them is your responsibility. Not because you did something wrong, but because you deserve to live without being controlled by your past. You deserve to have choice. You deserve to respond to life instead of react from survival mode. The 4 trauma responses are your nervous system's way of protecting you. And that protection was necessary once. But you are safe now. And it's time to learn a new way of being in the world. A way where you can fight when it's appropriate, flee when it's wise, freeze when you need to pause, and fawn when you genuinely want to help. Not because you have to, but because you choose to. Your nervous system is listening. Every time you practice presence, every time you choose a different response, every time you stay with discomfort instead of running from it, your system learns. Slowly, the automatic reactions begin to soften. The hypervigilance begins to ease. The survival mode begins to release its grip. You are not broken. You are healing. And that healing begins the moment you understand why you react the way you do. If this video helped you understand yourself a little more, consider subscribing and sharing it with someone who might need these words too. And if you want to keep exploring your inner patterns, there are more videos waiting for you here.